Hazard is all around us. From war to pandemics, tornadoes to bank disappointments, we live in a world full of dangers. In spite of the fact that within the advanced world we discover unused dangers like cybercrime and rebel manufactured insights, individuals have been hooking with how to bargain with hazard since antiquated times. The historical underpinnings of the word risk itself is debated, but a few theorize that the word comes to us through the Latin risicum or the Greek rhiza, which allude to the risks related to cruising, whereas other accounts follow it to the French suggestive and Italian risco for run into danger. If chance may be an all-inclusive perspective of life, can we learn anything around managing with hazard from the ancient philosophers? Specifically, can the Stoics give any bits of knowledge into how we are able to move forward at hazard administration in our proficient and individual lives? To begin with, what do we cruel by hazard administration? Tragically, risk-based terminology is famously difficult to concur upon, with professionals over diverse areas utilizing their claim-specialized lexicon. But at an awfully tall level, the method of chance administration regularly includes distinguishing dangers, at that point measuring them, prioritizing the beat dangers, and executing controls that lower the chance to an worthy level. This might sound complicated, but we own hazard administration all the time without realizing it. When we wear a protective cap whereas riding our bike, utilize antivirus program on our computer, or spare cash for retirement, we are overseeing different dangers. Additionally, companies must oversee dangers that debilitate the victory of the undertaking, budgetary dangers, supply chain dangers, cyber data dangers, specialist security data dangers, and so on. To manage risk, first visualize it. Vitally, the primary step to viable chance administration is to recognize the dangers that are significant. After all, it is troublesome to manage a risk that you simply don't know exists. The Stoics recognized that life was erratic, full of ups and downs. The hone of negative visualization, premeditatio malorum, was examined by the impassive rationalists as a way of rationally going up against mishaps, disasters, and hardships by considering through what might happen ahead of time. The individual who considers through what antagonistic scenarios may happen within the future is way better situated to bargain with troubles than the individual who was not anticipating anything awful to happen. As Seneca described it, nothing is tough, whether for a person or for a society. This is often why we ought to conceive each plausibility and to reinforce the soul to bargain with the things which may conceivably come around. Practice them in your intellect. Banish, torment, war, wreck. All the terms of our human parcel ought to be before our eyes. We ought to be foreseeing not merely all that commonly happens, but all that's conceivably able of happening in the event that we don't need to be overpowered and struck numb by uncommon occasions, as on the off chance that they were uncommon ones. Fortune needs imagining in a completely comprehensive way. Epictetus so also proposed the taking after counsel. At whatever point arranging an activity, rationally practice what the arrange involves. On the off chance that you're heading out to bathe, picture to yourself the ordinary scene at the bathhouse, individuals sprinkling, pushing, shouting, and pinching your dress. You'll total the act with more composure in the event that you say at the beginning, I need a shower, but at the same time I need to keep my will adjusted with nature. Do it with each act. That way, if something happens to ruin your shower, you'll have prepared the thought, well, this was not my, as it were, purposeful. I too implied to keep my will in line with nature, which is outlandish in case I go all to pieces at whatever point anything terrible happens. Seneca and Epictetus are suggesting that people run through negative scenarios in their intellect as a way to get ready for inevitable hardships. The parallel to cutting-edge chance administration is evident. When setting out to formally analyze dangers, one is guided by a central set of questions. What can go wrong? How likely is it? And if it happens, what are the consequences? Figuring out what can go off base is the coherent to begin with step to considering almost and managing with hazard. Of course, we all do this to a few degree in our possessed lives. We wear our seatbelt and drive securely since able to visualize the negative results of getting into a car mishap. We attempt to work out and eat well since we visualize the negative results of destitute well-being. In these cases, creating negative visualizations, not as it were, makes a difference us to recognize potential disasters, which will be hiding within the future, but moreover makes a difference us to apply preventative measures to lower our hazard. Risk control strategies, escaping from disaster. Recognizing potential dangers could be essential to begin with step, but hazard administration does not halt there. Regularly, it is essential to discover ways to diminish the dangers in our lives that we regard to be as well tall. This might include bringing down the probability of an unfavorable occasion or lessening the seriousness of the affect ought to that occasion materialize. By thinking around what might go off base within the future, an individual can distinguish what shields and countermeasures are fitting to reduce that specific hazard. Seneca depicts the nature of this as takes after. I will keep the adversary at cove by implies of a divider, and posts of sheer tallness will hinder indeed incredible armed forces by their trouble of approach. A harbor offers us guard from a storm, rooftops ward off the savage downpourings from clouds, the rain that falls without conclusion on the off chance that you escape from a blast. It does not allow chase. To combat dangers of thunder and of the sky there are the cures of houses underneath ground and caves burrowed profound into the soil. The well-known fire from paradise does not enter the soil, but is beaten back by the slight obstacle of the ground. When torment happens, we are at freedom to alter the putt where we stay. Elude is conceivable from each calamity. Here, Seneca is giving common sense counsel almost how to interface a potential negative future occasion with an activity that can diminish one's hazard. This can be not to say that all of these hazard control methodologies are 100% viable or practical. Going inside in the event that it is raining could be a great methodology, but there's still the little chance that your roof will spill and you'll get damp besides. In common, there are numerous recognized procedures for controlling risks. One is shirking, where an individual abstains from doing a hazardous thing through and through. Not skydiving may be a chance evasion procedure for the dangers related with skydiving. Another procedure is moderation, where we attempt to diminish the hazard to a lesser amount. The activities specified by Seneca are to a great extent mitigations, since they diminish the hazard but don't fundamentally ensure that the extra chance directors call this remaining hazard goes down to zero. As an illustration, companies go to extraordinary lengths to choose a portfolio of investigate and advancement ventures that they think will be effective, but unavoidably a few ventures still come up short. Third, one can exchange a chance to a third party. Protections is the classical illustration of a hazard exchange component. At last, one can acknowledge a hazard and move forward with a course of activity knowing that they still confront a few chance. By considering carefully approximately dangers and applying fitting control methodologies, an individual can feel more certain approximately tolerating the dangers that life has in store. Confidence in the face of risk. All of this, considering around what can go wrong, can appear overpowering and a bit frightening. But that's clearly not the aim of chance administration. As Epictetus instructed, numerous things are not inside our control, or not up to us. As it were, our activities are up to us. Outside occasions might happen to us that are negative, but what is imperative is how we respond to such occasions. We wouldn't require chance administration on the off chance that terrible things never happened after all. At the same time, hazard administration prepares us with instruments to arrange and respond to dangers in a positive way. Since our activities are within our control, ready to take proactive steps to avoid dangers from happening within, to begin with put, and to moderate the impacts of dangers that do happen. Compelling arranging before bad things happen and successful reactions when they do happen can make an expansive contrast within the conclusion result and can give peace of intellect as well. Seneca portrays the peace of intellect that comes with viable planning for chance. He man who fears passing will never do anything commendable of a man who is lively. But he who knows that these were the conditions drawn up for him when he was conceived will live agreeing to this run the show, and at the same time, through the same quality of intellect, he will guarantee that none of what happens to him will come out of the blue. For by looking ahead to all which will happen, as in spite of the fact that it were reaching to happen, he will mollify the assaults of all ills, which bring nothing unanticipated to those who are arranged and eager, but come as a genuine blow to those who appear no concern and anticipate as it were endowments. Considering almost dangers sometime recently, they happen changes how we see them. Inquire about on-chance discernment appears that dangers that are seen as controllable, discernible, and deliberately embraced are ordinarily seen as less risky. Arranging ahead for dangers makes us feel more certain that we'll be able to address them viably, whereas the most exceedingly bad dangers are the ones that capture us off guard, as Seneca pointed out. This is often why we do things like take an interest in fire drills. Knowing what to do within the case of a crisis gives us certainty that able to react to a genuine crisis legitimately. Whereas it is imperative to think almost what seem possibly go off base, it is imperative not to drop into inaction, staying on what is out of our control. In step, planning for the trials of life can prepare us with the backbone to confront the issues that unavoidably emerge. As Epictetus composed, "Why ought to I stress approximately what happens on the off chance that I'm equipped with the ethicalness of grit? Nothing can inconvenience or disturb me, or indeed appear irritating. Rather than assembly incident with moans and tears, I will call upon the staff, particularly given to bargain with it." In conclusion, the world may be unsafe put, and a part of things can happen that are out of our control. But that doesn't render us powerless. We have beneath our control the activities that we take to effectively oversee dangers. Indeed, in spite of the fact that it could appear obnoxious to think around dangers, there's awesome esteem within the workout. It makes a difference us to distinguish future issues which will happen, and helps our arranging as we attempt to figure out how to viably dodge, relieve, exchange, or acknowledge them. And eventually, dangers don't appear so frightening when they have been distinguished, and we realize that we are competent of reacting to anything dangers life tosses our way.